All right, we are back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Carter, how we doing, man?
Good, man. Good. I know it's been a little while since we came live. Had some stuff going on with the kids and work and things like that, so we had to push it back. But we're gonna go live probably the next 4 days or so. So anybody tuning in, appreciate you tuning in. My week's going well, man. I mean, it's been crazy busy with the kids and work and everything like that, but really pumped to get into it. It's Wednesday, little hump day, little middle of the week for you. Go out there and get a good workout in today and go, just get ready, man. We got tomorrow starts the weekend of college football, or the weekend of football, with the NFL tomorrow. We got college Friday, college Saturday, NFL Sunday, Monday. Like it's here. And so we're going to recap a little bit about what happened this past weekend and talk about some of that. And then as usual, we'll talk about everything else going on in the world of sports. But how's your week going, man?
My week is going well. Can't complain at all. Had a great weekend, a football weekend. It's even better now because playoff baseball has started.
Yeah, man. I got to watch a little bit of that Tigers game today. Did you see that?
No, I didn't get to catch all of it, but
Bro, it was awesome. It was awesome. I hate the Astros because I hate cheaters. So Michigan, the Astros, if you cheat, the fuck out of here. So seeing Detroit with their manager, who was the manager of the Astros when they cheated, so a little salty there. But seeing them go into Houston and beat them 2-0 was awesome. They hit a go-ahead triple I think it was the 8th inning, a bases clearing triple to go up 5-2. And now they got to come to Cleveland, baby. It's time. Indians are ready to go. Clase is going to shut their ass down. We are ready.
Yeah, playoff baseball is always a great, just a great time, a great month of baseball because it just means more in its.
There's nothing like October baseball, man. I say it about the NHL playoffs because I think those are probably the best playoffs in sports. MLB's close. There's just nothing quite like October baseball, man. Like the teams are actually playing. Like you just played 162 games, and every game means something because, like, you saw it with the Braves and the Mets. They had a double header on Monday to see who makes the playoffs. If the Mets win both, then the Mets and the Diamondbacks go. If the Braves win both, then the Braves and the Diamondbacks go. If they split it 1-1, then the Mets and the Braves go and the Diamondbacks are out. And it's like, how do you play 162 games and it comes down to the last day of baseball to see who's going to make the playoffs? Like, it's insane. And now every game is like that, where it's like, this is pivotal moments and you're going to get some of the biggest names in sports that are going to go out and show out. Like Francisco Lindor hit a great home run late in the game for the Mets to get them into the playoffs. I saw Bobby Witt Jr. today was 2 for 2, just fucking killing it. And it's just, this is what baseball should be like. And it's unfortunate that their season's so long that a lot of the months of the season are kind of mundane, but it's here. This is what you play for. You got the Yankees are going to be facing what looks like the Kansas City Royals. The Guardians, I don't like that name. The Indians are going to be facing the Tigers. And the ALDS is here. NLDS is about to be set. Like, it's time. And right. I'm not even a big baseball fan. Like, I just get I follow Cleveland throughout the year just because I'm a Cleveland sports fan.
Well,
other side.
Yeah, and I've heard your brother talk about it. He said you guys are in that weird blackout zone
where it's terrible, man.
To where, like, where you buy your basic cable package, they black you out in that North Columbus
kind
area.
Of. So what it is Bally Sports, the regional sports network here, and they're across the country, a lot of different places. But Bally Sports doesn't have an agreement with anybody other than like Spectrum here. So if you don't have Spectrum cable, you don't get Bally Sports. So majority of the games I have to either watch on my computer using one of those sites that are super legal. Trust me, I wouldn't use any illegal streaming sites. Or I have to have Spectrum. Or you could do what I've done and my brother's done, and you can go to getabox.com and you can get one of these little boxes that you hook up to your TV, and you get all the sports. I don't know how it works. Don't ask questions. Don't ask, don't tell policy. But yeah, it sucks. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I can't watch the Reds or the Indians.
Well, the wild thing is that right over here, you see that.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the marquee network up here. It's the same. It's the same thing with the Cubs, and it's like if I don't buy the extra package, I can't watch it, and it's just like. Well, and then you think you turn to the radio. You don't even get you can't get them on the radio because you know why? All the affiliates over here are the White Sox because a ton of people care about White Sox baseball.
Yeah, and the only sports talk radio or sports radio channel in Columbus pretty much is an ESPN affiliate. So they don't have the Indians or the Reds games. They don't play them on the airwaves because ESPN doesn't gain anything by doing that. And so you have to, and even like my thing is like, okay, if Valley isn't going to associate with the major providers in the Columbus area, I mean, Spectrum's a major one, but I'm not paying for Spectrum cable. I use YouTube TV. I've had Direct TV, which doesn't get it. And if you're not going to associate with some of the bigger players, then at least let me buy the MLB package. Well, if I buy the MLB package, I get every game except Cleveland and Cincinnati. Those are blacked out.
Oh, because
I'm in a local affiliate, even though I can't get it personally. It's just stupid. The way baseball does it is so dumb. It's so old school and antiquated, and they're dealing with Bally Sports, which is a bankrupt company that is not going to be around in 5 years. And it's all dumb. But neither here nor there. Now that it's playoff baseball, it'll be on national TV. It'll be available to me. I'll be able to watch it. And that's awesome. The only problem is I wish that they would do I wish what they would do for the national broadcasts is like put it on ESPN and ESPN2 and have each team's local team call the game. Because I'm sick of hearing Joe Buck and fucking Joe Schmo from ESPN talk about teams that they haven't watched. I want to hear Tom Hamilton talk about the Indians because he's watched 162 games and he knows what he's talking about.
Or which some of these local teams like John Miller for the San Francisco Giants, like you wouldn't want to hear him call a game. Like,
no, absolutely you would. I don't want to hear the national guys. They suck.
But it's just, and we got on the topic of baseball real quick for the people that were out there affected by the hurricane. Thoughts and prayers to you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I've seen a lot of the stuff on Twitter, and I know we have a pretty big Alabama following and Southern following. For all you guys out there, that end up seeing this, hopefully you guys are doing well and everybody's okay down there.
And if anybody has, because I have friends in the Carolinas like that have been affected by it, and if anybody has like any kind of relief funds or anything that they want people to know about and get exposure to, put it in the comments of the show, put it anywhere, because I had a friend of mine that lives in like the Asheville area, and they were gathering supplies and funds to give to the community and stuff like that. And like the biggest problem is our national or federal government and local governments aren't doing enough to help these people. And so anything we can do personally or as a show to add exposure to it, we want to do it. So please, if you have any kind of relief funds or anything that you guys need, put it in the show comments. I'll try my best to get it out to the people I know and get it, funded as much as possible, because what they're dealing with is catastrophic. It's something that is absolutely awful. You're talking about homes lost, towns completely destroyed, highways falling into rivers, like just all kinds of crazy stuff that is just awful.
Right. And, hopefully the people down there can be resilient and work through it. So, yeah, if you guys have anything that you want us to blast out, I know we're not the biggest platform out there, but we'll do anything to help anybody.
Every little bit helps, man.
In need. And before we get the show also kicked off, we lost two greats the other day, to Dikembe Mutombo and Pete Rose.
Yep.
This is just my personal opinion. Some people can take it the wrong way. Pete Rose is a very, very polarizing figure to me. When I played Little League baseball, he would always come and speak, every other year at the Little League banquet. Pete was a really nice guy, to me, just my personal experience. And it's a very strange opinion that people have of him. The Major League Baseball writers are a finicky group. They let some in, they don't let all in. But at the end of the day, Pete gambled on baseball, and that is something that you just cannot do. And as far as Dikembe Mutombo, great NBA player, great Denver Nugget. Just a great human being. So, RIP to those guys.
Yeah, everything I've heard about Dikembe, and excuse me, sorry, but everything I've heard about Dikembe and read, like his son put out a statement, and it's just everybody that's ever interacted with him is just like, what a genuine person, right? And so he's always been one of my favorite players just because of the way he played and just the kind of aura around him. As far as Pete Rose goes, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he's even eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame at this point by the writers. Like I know the writers probably will keep him out no matter what, but I don't think he's even eligible to be voted on because he's still banned by Major League Baseball. So I believe if I understand this and I read this correctly, in order for him to even be eligible for the Hall of Fame, he would have to be unbanned by the commissioner of Major League Baseball. And so,
yeah, it's
something that probably should have been done a while ago. I get what he did. Gambling on the sport is a bad look, no matter how you do it. The only thing I will say is, from what all the evidence they uncovered and everything, from the looks of it, he gambled on his team to win.
Yeah.
So and I know you can't allow that. I understand that, like, that's a fine line to walk, because you can't be like, no, it's okay to gamble on your team to win, because that just motivates you to play harder, to be better. And you're not throwing the game because you're not trying to lose. You need to win. And so if you lose, it's not for a lack of effort or anything like that. But I understand why you can't do it. Like, there's just too much gray area there. But at the same time, if he was gambling on his team to win, he eventually, now it took him 20 years to own up to it, because he said he didn't do it for the longest time. And they're like, dude, we have so much evidence. We know you did. So it probably would have helped if he was just honest up front and said, yeah, I did that. I gambled on the Reds to win games because I felt confident in my team to win those games. We won some, we lost some. So was I changing the outcome of the game? No. How would I have done that? I can't make us win, but I can help us lose, but I never gambled on us to lose. So I get both sides of the argument. It definitely would have helped if he was a little more forthcoming, if he was a little more honest about it in the beginning. But at this point, he has a record that, in all likelihood, will never be broken in the most hits. Like, somebody would have to hit 200 hits for like 20 some years, and most guys don't get 200 hits in a year ever. Like, I think there were 2 people this year with 200 hits, and you'd have to sustain that for like 22 years.
Yeah,
so he has a record that's never going to be broken. He didn't use, as far, I guess they weren't testing, so maybe he was on steroids, who knows, but he wasn't part of the steroid era or anything like that, so there wasn't anything giving him a competitive advantage. He just gambled on his team to win, and I get why you can't do it. But I'm just saying, like, dude was an absolute stud, and I've met him a couple times, always was as nice as can be, seemed like a great guy. I liked the sense of humor he had about it later in his life, where, like, he had that commercial where he walked into the hall, like into his hallway, and his wife was, Pete, you're not allowed in the hall. And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not even I can't even be in the hall of my own house. Like, he had a funny sense of humor about it. So I like the guy. But it is what it is. I mean, he broke some rules that are very, controversial.
He broke a sacred rule, and
Yeah.
you know one of the things that I had read, um and I watched the Big Red Machine on HBO Max,
Hmm.
and there was a segment in there to where they interviewed Johnny Bench, and I can't believe they left it in the it wasn't an official interview from Bench, but it was like an
Okay.
excerpt, and
Hmm.
somebody asked Bench at like some event or something, and I think they kind of ambushed him, but then again, I don't think he was pulling any punches. They said, "So Johnny, does Pete deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? What do you think?" And Johnny threw it back at him and says, "What do you think?" And it was kind of, he kind of said, "Is Pete sorry because he got caught, or is he sorry because he wants to get in the Hall of Fame?" So,
Well, and at this point, so I'll share a brief story with you, just from my experience with somebody that ended up getting into a Hall of Fame that I think it took too long for him to get into. And I don't know how Pete felt about it or what he told his family. But my grandfather was not in the Ohio State Football Hall of Fame for quite some time after he had already been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. And which is not normally how it goes. Normally, you get into your school's Hall of Fame first, and then the College Football Hall of Fame after. And a couple years after the College Football Hall of Fame happened, my grandfather was talking to me and my brothers and some of the family, and it came up in conversation about the Ohio State Football Hall of Fame. And he was a little older at this time, and he essentially told us, listen, if they don't do it before I die and they try to do it after I die to honor me, I want you to tell them no. He said, I don't, if that's how it goes, that's not honoring me. That's disrespectful to me. So I would rather not be in at that point. So I don't know how Pete felt about it, but I wonder if they do induct him, because I think eventually he will get into the Hall of Fame or at least be up for it. And I don't know how he felt about it. But in my experience, if that were to happen to my grandfather with Ohio State, then we were instructed by him when he was living to tell them no. He doesn't, you didn't see fit when he was living. So that's okay. But no, we thank you for the honor. No thanks.
yeah, and you know, just one brief thing, that it's not like a beef with Ohio State. Barton pointed it out. Like, why didn't they have Tress go dot the I against Y-Town? Because Ohio State's probably never going to play Y-Town again.
Yeah. So here's, I mean, I've heard that argument, and I don't disagree with it. I mean, obviously Tressel has a resume that is sufficient for that. Um, Ohio State is notorious for being late to the party on things when it comes to things like that. But there's a very select few of people that have ever dotted the I. Like, I
And
can promise you that there's two people that probably should dot the I that I don't think ever will. And that's
uh,
Tressel and Urban.
I don't. I think Urban's ego's too big for him to do it. I don't think.
Oh no,
And
if he got asked to, he would do it for sure. 100%.
you think so?
Yeah. Because
Mm.
Urban wants so badly to be idolized where he's been, that is a sign of respect. Like when my grandfather did it, when he dotted the I, that was one of the proudest moments of his life because of how rare it is to get asked to do that. Like, nobody does that. Like, you can count on two hands who's done it that's not a band member. And most of them are international, like John Glenn, Woody Hayes, my grandfather, Archie Griffin did it this year, who two-time Heisman winner. Why is it taking him so long to do it? He won a second Heisman back in the 70s.
And why did it
But,
take him so long to get a statue in front of the stadium?
well, that
Like,
too. But I'm just saying. So I think the problem is my grandfather was fired. It was a controversial fire just because so many people loved him, but there wasn't a lot of controversy around it. Like, he wasn't caught cheating. He wasn't caught with scandal or anything like that. He just was 9-3 Earl is what they called him. And so he just wasn't winning enough, and he lost to Michigan a few too many times. They fired him. Now, it took a long time for that to happen because of the circumstances around the firing, with the athletic director quitting his job instead of firing him and things like that. And it was a very political move by the people in charge of the TV stations in Columbus and things like that. Like, there was a lot to it. But it took so long for that to happen because of that. Now, when you add in the controversy of lying to the NCAA, getting kids suspended, getting suspended because of assistant coaches' personal problems, things like that, like, that's going to take a long time for Ohio State to get over. It's only been 15 years for Tressel.
Yeah.
A little bit more. Like, it took damn near 30 years for Ohio State to get over firing Earl for losing. And you think they're going to get over that for Urban and Tressel in 15, 10? No.
Yeah.
If it happens, it won't happen for another 20 years.
And also, there is a really cool clip on the rivalry documentary that's on HBO where a bunch of students went to your grandfather's house and went and sung outside.
The entire band. The entire band showed up at my grandfather's house and played the alma mater and played music, and coaches, players, students, fans, everybody showed. I mean, I wasn't alive. My oldest brother was. And the scene at my grandfather's house in Worthington, I think it was in Worthington Hills at that point, or down on Kenny Road. I don't remember. But they showed up. I mean, the entire band was in their front yard playing songs because they were so upset about it. And then obviously the next week at Michigan, which is wild to think about, because that would never happen today, where you fire a coach before the Michigan game. First of all, that wouldn't happen. Second of all, you wouldn't fire him before the Michigan game and then have him coach the Michigan game.
And didn't he won it, right?
He won it, yeah. They all showed up with their Earl bandanas on, and they won the game, and it was a ceremonious send-off type of thing. But yeah, it was an incredible, from what I've heard. Obviously, I wasn't alive, so I didn't see it, but I've seen pictures, I've seen videos. It was a very emotional time, specifically for my grandfather, because that was the university he loved, and he still loved them after that, even when majority of our family hated him for it. But yeah, that was a wild time. But that you won't see anything like that ever again. Like, that's never going to happen. The team and it's just the business is so different now that that's never going to happen again.
And it's we'll get moving here to the actual show.
Yeah,
we kind of took a wrong turn, not a wrong turn. We took a left turn here, or a right turn, whatever you want to be on. But it's just so different. If you look at some of the people out there with Ohio State, obviously with your brother, your grandfather, a lot of people have gave a lot to that place, and they don't really give back. It's like the Terminator. It's like the T-1000. And some people could say that that's haterade or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah, I would argue that the university itself oftentimes doesn't, but Buckeye Nation does. So my grandfather got fired from Ohio State, and we'll move on after this, and he went on to coach Colorado State and to coach other places, and did fairly well, had a successful career, everything like that. But when it came time for him to retire, when it came time for him to go back, he came back to Columbus, and Buckeye Nation embraced him. He was he was in the media immediately after, was doing radio, TV, everything like that around Ohio State. And Buckeye Nation embraced him because Buckeye Nation loved him. And you could say not quite to the same extent with my brother, but my brother's built a platform that largely is based off of what he did at Ohio State. And so there's still a portion of the community that embraces those people. It's just the university that turns their back on them.
Yeah. And it's just wild. The same thing. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on Barton too. The All-American, played there, broken ankle, various body limbs altered at his time there, and it's just it's just wild how that becomes full circle. We definitely got off script today.
Sorry, but yeah.
And that's just my opinion. And then do we want to go ahead and make that announcement for next week too, Carter?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Starting next Tuesday and Thursday, Richie Williams is going to be joining the show for a little bit. We're going to be talking some football on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and our schedule going forward the rest of the season is going to be it's going to be Monday through Saturday.
Yep.
And Saturdays will be a pregame show, and if we're live for a postgame show after the Notre Dame game, it's probably not going to be a pretty one. So but
it don't have to be a big win or a monumental loss, but
but I'm still
but yeah, no, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you and Richie to get together and chop it up. And if I'm available those nights, I'll hop on too and chop it up with you guys. It just depends. Right now, my schedule with work and the kids, I can't commit to going Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. So if it happens, great. If not, though, we're gonna pump out content, keep it going. But ultimately, it's just we're gonna try to go every night of the week, other than Sunday. God made Sunday for a day of rest, so we're gonna try to leave that as that for now. We might go 7 days a week soon. Who knows?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough ask, but yeah, that's the small announcement with content rolling through. So
you want to get to the show? We've done damn near 30 minutes on just stories and shit, which is fun. I enjoy doing it. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, huh?
Yes. Go ahead, Carter.
So Michigan's finest, a true Michigan man, Cade McNamara, who would be the starting quarterback at Michigan this year if he never left. And Michigan fans would be thrilled to have him because Alex Orji sucks. And so does Davis Warren, was asked about Ohio State's defense. And what he says is true. And I snickered when I first heard it, but then you see his reaction and you're like, God, dude, I love football players. Like these dudes are the same people in the locker room. They try to hide it when they're in front of the media, but sometimes it just comes out. So let me play the clip for you here. And it's funny.
Communication up front and with me, the backs, and really everyone just being on the same page, because we know these guys are going to come a lot. I mean, there's but I mean, we have to be.
So he said they're going to come a lot. And you just see his smile and you're like, dude, you are such a, that's just so on brand, for just what you expect a football player. Like he's in his head thinking, he says it, he's just talking about, they're going to bring pressure. They're going to be on me. They're going to continue to get after me. They're going to come a lot. And he says it and he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. But then he hears it come out of his mouth and he's just like, pause. No, did he? I don't know.
Well, he's taking on the Colorado mantra. We coming.
It's just so funny. Like these kids, and like Cade McNamara is not a kid. Like he's been in college football for like 7 years now. Like he's 25 years old or something. But
Yes.
it never leaves you. You're just like, it's funny. Like you say it, you don't mean it the way it comes out, and it's funny. It's hilarious. And the fact that he pauses and laughs, and then the whole media laughs, like, dude, we weren't gonna like laugh about it. We heard it too, but it's a funny moment, man. It's great.
Yeah. And then you understand there's like a handful of guys that were in that room that was just like, oh my gosh, can't we
For
grow
sure.
up here?
The old white dudes in the room are like, oh my god, come on, get it together.
Yeah, this
It's
is
like, dude, come on, it's funny.
We're trying to work here. That's just
yeah, have some fun. It's fine. He said they're gonna come a lot. That's funny. I don't care who it is, but I thought that was funny. And then, hey,
curse has been lifted.
Kansas State is back, baby, because Bill Snyder, and we're not going to show it because it's graphic, and I didn't need to see it, to be honest with you. But
as soon as it got sent to me, I sent it to Carter instantly because
I know, and I was like, bro, I've said it twice. Like I said, I don't want to see it. I just want to know he did it. No did he? I just want to. Did he do it? Yeah. But St. Bill Snyder, I said it last week. He got the beefy 5-layer, put it in the freezer, which was a smart move. Like you don't want to just smudge. Like, anyways, but. Sorry, but he froze it. I don't know how he did it. I don't need to know any particulars on if he used any kind of baby oil or anything like that, but he paid off on his bet. So Kansas State is back.
That's it. Okay, I got two things here. I knew it was going to be bad whenever he showed up with a Taco Bell bag and Welcome to the Jungle was playing. And I'm like, this is definitely going to happen. And then a couple days later, it happens.
Yeah.
Two,
go ahead.
Two, Mike Gundy is horrendous against Kansas State on the road.
They played him close in the first half, but man, did they get spanked.
So
no pun intended. But yeah, so good for him for paying off. I wouldn't have made the claim myself, but he did. And unlike Red Solo Cup dog shit guy, he stuck to his word. So good for him.
But realistically, when you break it down, it's Florida sports fan. Can you expect any less?
No, especially not Florida State. Those fans are the worst. Sorry, Snaps. But in other news, we had this come out today, and I have more information on it. It was reported, I think, first by Bleacher Report or something like that. But there is a group of people that have presented a Super League, 2-conference, 20 divisions, I think it is. Super conference for college football called the CSFL, the College Student Football League. I think it's funny that they include the word student. That's smart. But they've essentially broken it down. All 136 Division I teams are in it. They have the Power 12 or something like that divisions, which are the top 76. Is that right? I think 76
Yeah,
teams.
It's top 76.
And they're broken into 12 divisions that are geographic, and the top 12 teams are like Michigan and Ohio State would not be in the same division. Georgia, Alabama, not in the same division. Like they take the top 12 teams over the past however many years, and they split them up as the number one team in each division, and then geographically put the rest of the teams in divisions so that there's like 6 or 7 teams in each division, and you have a 24-team playoff. And then the group of 8 includes the other teams.
So essentially what you're telling me is that instead of, Ohio State playing the vaunted Purdue Boilermakers in traditional Big Ten action.
Yep.
We could get the vaunted Cincinnati Bearcats and
something like that. So they would each play
Panthers.
Yeah, so they would all play their division games, right? Which is like 6 division games, and then they would have or 5 division games and 8 out of division games or something. However they break it down, and then you'd have a 24-team playoff, and the group of 8 could get moved up somehow, but the Power 12 wouldn't get relegated. I don't know how that would work, but that's the proposal right now, and it's interesting, and this is absolutely where college football is going to end up. I don't know if it'll be this specifically, but this is where it's going.
I read the whole thing after you sent it to me last night, and like in theory it's good, but I still want to watch, Illinois play Ohio State for $1.
Yeah, but all that shit's out, man. I'm sorry. Like that shit's first of all, doesn't make enough money to make sense.
Okay, if we're gonna get rid of that, Indiana playing Purdue, if we're gonna get rid of all that shit, then no more Ole Miss, Georgia Southern, no more Ole Miss.
No. I think they would play some group of 8s. Yeah, but it's
either gonna
they wouldn't play any FCS schools. So the FCS wouldn't be involved in it. So it would all be the 136 FBS teams. That's all you play.
And then no more Ohio State, Akron, Western,
Akron,
Marshall. Not to bag on the group of 5 teams. If you're Ohio State, you're going to play your division games, and then you're going to be on the road at Alabama. Then next week, you know where you're going? You're going to go to the Swamp, and then you know where you're going after that? We'll probably send you to Washington State.
Yeah, so my thing is there has to be some semblance of rivalries being maintained. Like Ohio State, Michigan are in different divisions. I don't care how it works. That has to be played every year.
Yeah.
Georgia or Alabama, Auburn, if they're in different divisions, has to be played every year. So it's good that they have more out-of-division games than in-division games because that gives flexibility to do things like that. But you can't just say, this division, let's call it the CSFL Midwest, which is Ohio State, and then the CSFL Northeast, which is Michigan. You can't just say the Midwest division's playing the South division this year and this division. Like you can't do it like the NFL does. Michigan, Ohio State has to be played every year. Otherwise, this proposal holds no weight because you can't get rid of everything. You're gonna alienate so many viewers by doing that. Well, but go ahead.
This is just my thing. Your ties with the SEC. There's too many rivalries in there. Like Georgia has to play Florida every year. Georgia has to play Tennessee. They have to play Auburn. So those are their 3 main rivals. Like they have to play every year. So
yeah, I don't know if do they play Auburn every year?
Yeah.
Okay. But so the way you do it, the way I would do it, and the fact that Ohio State and Michigan are in different divisions kind of throws a wrench in this. The way I would do it, I would take everybody's main 1 or 2 rivals, like the biggest rivalry games in college sports, like Georgia, Florida, Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Like those people just have to be in the same division so that there's no question you play every year. The problem with that is you're going to have weaker divisions then because you can't separate the true powers completely. But you don't have to have Georgia and Alabama in the same division because they don't play every year already. You don't have to have Ohio State, Notre Dame in the same division because they don't play every year already. So you can move things around if you're smart about it. The one thing that makes me think that this is actually a viable option is, do you know who one of the main backers of this is and one of the main people involved?
It's got to be Sankey or Saban.
Nope. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns and the Columbus Crew and the Milwaukee Bucks. And when you have that kind of money, you don't get involved with something unless you have a clear path forward. And so he has the money to do it. And I'm telling you, this thing might get some teeth because of his involvement. And if they get other big money guys, which they already have a bunch of other big money guys, but like when I saw Jimmy Haslam's name attached to it, that guy doesn't get involved with stuff that doesn't happen. He doesn't.
Like fuel reward points.
Yeah, he makes that shit happen, even if it rips off truckers. But I'm just saying, you when you've got that kind of money, and trust me, as a Browns fan, that is true fuck you money. Because we'll pay Deshaun $60 million signing bonus to make his cap hit go down, and we don't give a shit if he's good at all. Because I don't care. $60 million is a drop in the bucket.
When it comes to this moving forward, they have to figure something out because
this is just the preliminary stages of that. This isn't what it'll look like. It's just an early adaptation.
Yeah, and with everything moving forward, it's just like everybody's spitballing ideas. I don't think that it's nothing is final. No, as I would say.
No, they're just getting ideas out there to see what the reception is, and then they'll tweak it. They'll continue to go. But so I'll go back to it. When I saw Haslam's name, that means it's actually funded. It actually has backing, and they're going to go forward with it, and they're going to go through the process. And the NCAA should be super fucking worried because this is the death of the NCAA right here.
Well, I think the death of the NCAA, what started the process was the NIL. And then, the last thing I got on this is that I would not be shocked if they don't start pushing the national title game into different cities. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine when Cleveland builds that new indoor facility?
Oh, yeah, they'll get one. Yeah.
Like
if this goes forward, this league, the first national championship of this league will be at Cleveland's new stadium. I promise you.
Could you imagine what that the type of revenue it would bring to that pocket of the nation?
You're ridiculous. What are you talking about? The whole reason the Haslams want to build this new stadium in Cleveland, outside the fact that the old stadium's kind of shitty, is
Super Bowl
for shit like this. Super Bowl, WrestleMania, Final Fours in college basketball, and then this. Like they're going to get the biggest events in the world, especially if the Haslams are involved. Are you kidding me? That shit's going to be in Cleveland every 4 years.
Oh yeah, just a side note here. I was looking at some stuff on Twitter, and the Oregon fans have bbeen very loud. And they're like, "Oh man, we can't wait until they move the Big Ten title game to Las Vegas." And I'm just thinking to myself, I said, "Okay, move it to Vegas." And then when you get a crappy matchup like Penn State versus Minnesota, I think
which will never happen.
But if let's say there's an off year and Ohio State doesn't go.
There's too many big brands. I mean, if Ohio State has an off year, then USC has an up year. Like, there's too many big brands for it to be Minnesota, Indiana, or something like that. Like, you'll get a Penn State in there or something like that, but it's always going to be Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, USC. One of those four is going to be in almost every year. And then you'll get a Penn State occasionally and maybe an Iowa here and there or a Wisconsin. But you're never going to end up with a Minnesota-Indiana matchup or something.
I'm just a big proponent.
Yeah. So the thing is, they're not going to move it permanently anywhere. They're going to do it in Indy. They're going to do it in Vegas. They'll probably do it in LA. They'll probably do it in Cleveland once this new stadium's open. They might do it up in Detroit. They might do it in Minneapolis. Like, they're going to move it around. It's no longer going to be a stationary thing just because there's too much money and too many great stadiums and environments and opportunities for them. That's why the Big Ten did what they did, adding the West Coast teams. That brings in the Vegas market. That brings in the LA market. That's why they added Rutgers to bring in the New York market. Like, it's going to be moving around every year. Like, this year it's in Indy. Next year, it'll probably still be an ND, but 2-3 years from now, you're going to have one in Vegas, have one in LA. Because why else would you do this? That's just what you would do.
I don't know. I
You
mean,
don't have to like it. I'm just telling you what they're going to do.
Well, I just feel like if you put a Big Ten title game in a pro sports city, no one's going to care.
Oh, like, absolutely false.
Like LA,
as long as like if you do it in LA, if Ohio State's in it, if USC's in it, it's going to sell out. It's going to sell out no matter what. But
I think
they're banking on the brands that they have that being big enough. Like if you put it in Vegas, Ohio State fans are going to Vegas. What do you mean? You tell me right now I could do a 3-day weekend in Vegas and go to a Big Ten title game? I'm doing it.
I think, as long as you have a traditional Big Ten brand in there, but I think if you have Penn State, USC, I don't know if they can, would drive down.
It depends on where it is. If it's in like Minneapolis, then no, probably not a great location. But if it's in LA, you'll get there's too much big money out there.
Because, okay, this is just my argument. If you have let's say the Big Ten title games, Penn State, Ohio State, why in the hell would you play that in LA? Like, I wouldn't go to that.
There's a lot of people that would.
It just
okay. I don't. You could say the same thing for the Super Bowl. If you have
the Super Bowl
Green Bay versus the Patriots, why the hell would you play that in Arizona?
Super Bowl's different. That moves around every year in its NFC, AFC. That moves around every year. But what I'm saying is that, like, go watch a Rams or a Vegas Raiders game on a Sunday. It looks like the traveling team's home stadium, but there's nobody locally that's going to care because, in my opinion, the farther you go west in some pockets of the country, people don't care who.
No, I agree.
Ohio State is playing.
Not Ohio State. That's the one brand in the Big Ten that no matter where you play it, there's going to be loads of Ohio State fans. Doesn't matter. Ohio State, Michigan's probably close, not quite the same. But no matter where you play it, as long as you have one of those big brands, you'll be fine. Now, if you have a Minnesota, Penn State, which, like I said, probably never going to happen, at least not anytime soon. But if it does, then you're going to have kind of a tough time. But regardless, they're going to continue to do it. But let's get into some recap of this weekend. We're already almost at an hour. So we'll get into what happened this weekend and get out of here. Raymond James had the lowest hands. Well, that happens. Raymond James is also – Buccaneers fans are also – never mind.
Hey, easy. This is the kid show.
Enjoy Baker while he lasts.
Pause.
No diddy. But, all right, so this past weekend, we haven't talked about it, I don't think. But
no, we have not.
A bunch of really good games. Miami escapes narrowly over Virginia Tech in thrilling fashion, honestly. Did you watch that game?
Yeah, we were watching it with some. We had a group of us at the local. It's at a bar in Fort Wayne called Arena, and there was about 10 of us that got together that all worked together, and we were watching this, and everybody's like, Miami's gonna blow them out. I'm like, no, they're not. And real quick here, my thoughts on the catch. I don't think they should have called it a catch on the field.
No, I agree.
But I don't think
they did.
But I don't think. Okay, you call it a catch on the field. That's your first mistake, and then your second mistake is then reversing it because there's no definitive evidence. I would have called it incomplete and then looked at it and said, receiver did not catch the ball, and then you have an out. But also, this is a bigger beef that I have with officials because they're starting to insert themselves into the college game more than they need to, which blows me away because they don't have to answer for this. You know, like you see what I'm saying here? They don't have to answer at all for this.
Yep, I agree. I agree completely.
And
My thing is, yeah, the problem, it's tough. I agree. It shouldn't have been called a touchdown on the field. I think that was the mistake they made. And after they came out with the reasoning the next day as to why it was called incomplete, I understand it. It was touched by a Miami player before anybody had control while the Miami player was out of bounds. Clearly, that means incomplete. Unfortunately, when you watch the replay, you can't really see that happen. You don't know when control is. And I couldn't believe they overturned it. So here's full tinfoil hat. I mean, sorry, my throat's a little dry there. But when it comes down to it, do you not think there was an ACC official or somebody like, hey, I clearly don't think this is a catch. I know we called it a catch on the field, but we also can't afford to have Miami lose this game.
well, I don't think it was necessarily that. I think the reason why it took so long on the replay was, like, I think they told the head official, like, "Hey guys, like, what the hell are we doing down there? Why'd you call it a catch?"
Yeah.
Like you got to figure that out. Now we have a mess to unpack.
Yeah, well, at that point, though, that damage is already done. You just got to own it. But they didn't. They overturned it.
Yeah,
But
it's just
neither here nor there. Miami almost did what I said Miami would do the whole time, is they're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose because they're Miami. That's what they do. And they should have lost that game. And they escaped for whatever reason. But I think Miami loses a game here soon. A game they shouldn't lose. But I think I thought Miami was a great team, or a really good team. They looked like they might not be as good as expected.
Well, I think that Miami, they came out flat, but also I think that the thing with this team, they can score points, and that is the scary part.
Yeah, Cam Ward's real.
And I'm not even talking about his, like, NFL cachet or what
I don't
have
care
you.
about that.
I think Miami can make some noise in the playoffs. In, you know, the Mario detractors, the Wolverine fans, you know, they've, like, morphed off into I don't keep track of them hardly anymore, because it seems like they only show up to a fan base whenever the coach is doing bad. So I think they're Wolverine Rebs now. They're Ole Miss fans. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, so that was an interesting game. And then Ohio State played Michigan State Saturday night. And I mean, they won convincingly. They had their struggles. We won't get too deep into it. I know there's plenty of shows out there that'll dive deep. But they looked good, and they figured it out. But the main thing I wanted to say was, dude, there are two freshman receivers right now that might be the two best receivers in college football. We'll touch on the other one after this, but Jeremiah Smith is absolutely him. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
JJ Smith is everything he's been billed to be.
Absolutely. And this catch right here just shows you all you need to know.
Here comes the blitz. Henderson picks it up. Brown to Smith. Oh my!
Hold on, let's watch it one more time.
Wow!
That was fast.
Jeremiah Smith, ladies and gentlemen. 17-yard touchdown for the freshman.
It's a no dice.
Anyways, that was absolutely insane. Thrown by none other than Heisman Devin Brown himself.
No,
But
no.
I mean, he is absolutely the most ridiculous receiver I've ever seen at his age.
Oh, I can't argue with that. JJ Smith might go down as the greatest receiver in Ohio State history, maybe, but
He definitely has a chance.
Yet is there's still a lot to be written about that story, and also he would have something Marv doesn't have, gold pants. But moving on. Alabama defeats
that game was fun.
The Dogs.
Yeah.
Alabama wins it 41-34. Georgia was down 30-7 at halftime. And
it looked like it was about to be a rout. Like, I thought they were going to just put them away. Georgia came back, which is a testament to them. I think they're still a good team. They just got completely dominated in the first half and were coming back from 23 and in the second half is really hard to do. They almost did it.
And I don't think that for what that game was, because I instantly got on Twitter and just like was reading it, and the Georgia fans were like, "Do we think about getting rid of Kirby Smart?"
Dude, oh my God, I love fans. Yeah, sure, go ahead, fire them. Every school in the world is going to be lining up. That's just insane. But Ryan Williams is another one. I mean, he's incredible. The play he made for the go-ahead touchdown is insane. I don't have the video here, but I mean, absolutely insane. And I heard a story about him in the pregame. He was walking around the field, and like, I don't know if it was Brent Musburger or one of the media guys was like talking to him, was like, "Hey, are you nervous?" Because he seemed real nonchalant on the field. And all he said was, "Nah, I'm built for this."
I don't know if you were somewhere where you could hear the TV broadcast, they only brought it up like 750,000 million times. He's only 17.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a senior in high school.
He's only 17. Like,
yeah, but he's different, bro. And he's got something in him, man. He's a different breed, just like Jeremiah Smith. I think Jeremiah Smith's a little quieter, and I think he's a more polished receiver. Ryan's just got such explosiveness that's crazy. But like, he had to kill everybody on his eye black.
I wasn't crazy about that, but
so if you've seen the program, you know what that's a tribute to, right? Okay. Yes. But at the same time, it was really funny. They put up a side-by-side. It was him. And it said, "Kill everybody." And then the guy he was standing next to, I don't know who it was, but it said like Psalm 3:14 or whatever, like a Bible verse. And they were like, Tim Tebow and Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, somebody definitely, they memed that up.
Yeah. But, and then here's the thing. And like, I can appreciate the humor behind it. As a dog person, it didn't offend me, but I was like, dude, that's too far. But do you know what he changed his Instagram profile picture to after he beat the Georgia Bulldogs?
Yeah, that is like, I'm with you on that. Like, I'm not offended, but like, I'm sure somebody at Alabama was like, "Hey, did you see this, coach?"
Yeah, because like, I get it. I know what he's doing, and like, I can appreciate the humor behind it. But I'm not one to joke about killing dogs or killing people or killing anybody or raping or anything like that. Like, that's just not my style of humor. I can understand why. But he changed his profile picture for anybody that didn't see. He changed his profile picture to Mike Vick because he killed the Bulldogs, right? He's a dog killer. I get it. It's just, that's not my style. So
I don't like that style of trolling, but no, Milwaukee, critical error. It is side note for everybody out there. It is 1-1 Milwaukee Mets.
Okay.
I know we can keep it moving and a grooving. Kentucky Ole Miss.
Dude, that game was awesome. That game was awesome.
We had the Ole Miss fans want to hop out the window, and I just,
I agree. They should.
I don't think it's time to panic yet.
I do.
Because
I do. I don't know how you lose to Kentucky. I know Kentucky's not a bad team.
Okay.
And they line up. Yep, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If you take the South Carolina game away,
yeah,
and they just play Georgia bye week and come and beat Ole Miss, what's your opinion of Kentucky at that point?
So at that point, they have wins over Southern Miss and Southern Miss and who was the other one? The Ohio Bobcats. So if you erase that South Carolina game, they didn't have a bye week.
Or I thought they had a bye in between the Ole Miss game.
No, they played OU, Ohio. Which is a glorified bye, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, they lost to Georgia by 1. They beat Southern Miss 31-0. They beat OU 41-6. I get what you're saying. The only problem is, I think Kentucky's actually a good team. I think Kentucky's going to win Vandy, Florida, Auburn, probably lose to Tennessee, beat whoever that is, Mammoth, lose to Texas. I think they could beat Louisville, so that maybe they're a 9-3 team, which is a pretty good team.
I'd go 8-4.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm saying their schedule sets up, like, unless they lose to Louisville, their schedule sets up that they should go 9-3 now that they beat Ole Miss. But the problem is that, and I get it, like, they match up well. They honestly shouldn't have matched up that well against Ole Miss. I get why they matched up well against Georgia, because their strengths for Kentucky are ball control and shutting down the run, and I don't think Georgia's a prolific passing team. Ole Miss is a fast-paced team that should have been able to kind of move the ball and put it on them, and they didn't.
Ole Miss, because I watched that game, Ole Miss couldn't run the ball.
No, they couldn't run the ball, but they should be able to make up with it with Jackson Dart and their fast-paced offense.
And if
the problem is Ole Miss is fraudulent.
If you rewind the tape, let's go back to the end of July. Somebody did a Quinshon Judkins breakdown, to all 22 film breakdown, and said Ole Miss's O-line was suspect, and they didn't do it in the portal. They didn't get anybody in the portal. In Kentucky, moved the pocket on Dart. So, and also the other thing that people don't realize is that these noon kickoffs on the East Coast are 11 a.m. kickoffs for the SEC teams.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them that are on Central Time. So that is really early, in my opinion, to play a football game. And also, in a side note, Colorado, when Colorado plays a noon game at home, it's a 10 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah. But when I look at it, Ole Miss has been touted all offseason.
Because they've been building for this year. And I think them losing – think of it this way, that how much better is Ole Miss if they have Quinshon Judkins and David Igbinosun? How much better is that team?
Yeah, absolutely. Then why don't you have them?
Yeah. So,
But they've played 4 games. They're 4-1. They've played 5 now, but their 4 games before were
Furman,
Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, and I don't even hold on. Who's that? Oh, Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
So they hadn't been tested. So all these people and that's why I say they're fraudulent, is they played absolutely nobody. They won by 1,000,000 points each week, and then they played a team. Like I don't know if Kentucky's really a team, but they played a team and they lost. And so look at their schedule. I'm telling you right now, the 0% chance they make the playoffs. They're going to lose to. They play South Carolina this week at South Carolina.
That's not going to be.
That's not a walk in the park.
But if Lane can figure out how to run the ball, I think they'll be okay.
Well, okay. Then after that, they play LSU, who knows what LSU is, but
yeah.
And then they play Oklahoma, and then they play Arkansas, which is a win, and then they play Georgia, and then Florida, Mississippi State. Like South Carolina, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma. Those are 4 games they could lose.
See, I think this is the biggest week for Ole Miss, and I think the season's on the line in this game because they have to win this game.
If they lose this one, they might lose 5 games this year.
That's no bueno.
No, even if they win this one, they still lose 3 probably, because you got to go to at LSU, and then you got to face Oklahoma and Georgia.
The LSU game for me is not. It's a big deal.
It's at LSU at night.
That's going to be a banger of a game, just because you have the quarterbacks of Dart and Garrett Nussmeier, which I think he's going to be really good.
I still don't know what to make of LSU, because they lost to a USC team that I thought was better than they are. Now USC went out in second half and beat a Wisconsin team that I don't think is very good. But they lost to a Michigan team that I know is not very good. I don't know what USC is. And LSU, I just don't know what they are. But I'll tell you what, I think LSU is better than Kentucky.
Yeah, I'll give you that, because Garrett.
And they lost at home to Kentucky.
Garrett Nussmeier is better than Brock Vandergriff.
Yeah, for sure. But so that's what I'm saying. All this talk about Lane Kiffin, he's going to be a hot name for Florida. He might have 5 losses this year, just like I think Napier will have like 8, but he might not even be 100% safe at Ole Miss.
What? Real quick, we'll do this before we hit the Notre Dame segment.
Yeah.
While you're look up the rest of Florida's schedule. While you're doing that, I'll buzz through this Arizona Utah stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Arizona Utah. Arizona completely dominated them at home. Utah had a blackout. Unbelievable performance by Arizona. The Mormon MILF Hunter's brother Wilson did not look great. Who knows if he can figure it out? Probably should have went to BYU. Michigan survives Minnesota. Mr. Row the Boat, Creeper. They had a blown call. It is what it is. The Big Ten corrected it. So, Michigan, congratulations. You got one over on PJ Fleck. To me, you can look at the video. It's just like the Virginia Tech thing. There's no big, like, the call is what they called, regardless of whatever video evidence is out there. Like, you can argue it all day, but at the end of the day, the call is what they call. Like it stands. So, if I'm an umpire and I ring you up on strike 3, that's it. Was it a strike? I don't know. It doesn't matter, because that's what the call is.
Yeah.
And some people are so short-sighted they cannot deal with that. So, and then we'll go to this Notre Dame segment. What's Richie talking about?
Well, he's talking about LSU, and I agree. Brian Kelly sucks. Fuck him. But I still think LSU is better than Kentucky, unfortunately. But anyways, you wanted the Florida schedule, right? And then we'll hit Notre Dame.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Florida had a bye week last week, and then they have UCF this week, which UCF just got trounced by Colorado.
I told you. This is what we when we were talking about Colorado. You were like, "Oh man, I don't know that like they might be shit again," and that's why I said just hold the judgment and just wait.
Yeah, we'll see.
On them.
But they have UCF, which I still think UCF could beat Florida. Then they play Tennessee, which is a loss. Then they play Kentucky, which I said before the year probably a win. I don't know anymore.
I think it's a coin. I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah. So let's say they win one of UCF and Kentucky. I don't think they win both. So they have one win and 2 losses in the next 3. So now they're at 4 losses. And then it's just over. They have Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. That's 4 straight losses. So now they're 3-7 going into the final week against, or 3-8 going into the final week against Florida State, which maybe a win.
That I would count that as a win.
So, like I said before the season, 4-8.
Yeah,
so, Florida fans.
We were on the same wavelength on 4-8 or 5-7. 5-7 was the best.
5-7's the 5-7's if they absolutely kill these next few weeks, because they would have to win UCF, Kentucky, and Florida State to get to 5 wins, and I think they lose at least one of those.
But we were talking about is Billy gone? If
he's gone,
if he goes 5-8 or 4-7, I think they're gonna keep him.
What? If he goes 4-8, you think they keep him if he goes 4-8?
Because
why? Why would you do that?
Because of the way that the schedule was dealt. He's got the hard.
Fuck.
He's got the hardest schedule in.
I get that.
In if college
you go
football,
6-6, maybe you make an argument. But 4-8,
5-7. I think they'll be 5-7.
So they're going to beat UCF, Kentucky, and Florida State.
If the Kentucky game's in the swamp? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And
Florida State's not. Florida State's in Tallahassee.
Wasn't it last year Tennessee completely folded when they played
this Tennessee
Florida?
Team is not folding.
I'm just saying,
this Tennessee team might be the best team in the country.
Tennessee might be the best team in the country, but you're really going to put a lot of stock into Brian Kelly not to choke
against this Florida team?
Yeah.
No. Okay. He doesn't lose to terrible teams. I hate the guy, but he doesn't lose to bad teams. He's not Marcus Freeman.
Speaking of Marcus Freeman, we're gonna continue to disagree on Florida at this point, because I think they should keep
5-7 is, and even if they go 5-7, I don't know how you keep them.
But also who is
Florida?
Yeah, but you're completely rebuilding from the weirdo that is Dan Mullen. Look at their hires. You had Dan Mullen, Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, that had Connor Stallions on his sideline and called him the sign stealer guy. Okay?
Yeah, I understand. I get it. Bad hires all around, but you don't continue with a bad hire just because you made other bad hires.
And 2 out of those 3 coaches took him to the SEC championship game, and they still fired him the next year. But I think Florida has.
And you think they're going to keep
problem.
A 4-8 guy?
I think he's going to be 5-7.
Anyways, all right, let's move on to Notre Dame.
We're gonna completely disagree on this, but
when he gets fired before the Georgia game, I'm gonna laugh.
I'm telling you, just keep a little faith in old G5.
He better win this week. He better win this week, or else the seat is stupid hot.
I think it's a lot. It just by what I know, it's a lot cooler than what you would think.
If it was as cool as you're making it sound, they wouldn't have already had boosters getting the money together to get rid of them.
That was all because you remember what are the boosters? They're super fans, fanatics.
Yeah, and they're the ones that pay for the program. And when they get the money together and say, we don't want this guy, his seat isn't hot, it's already on fire.
I think
they don't gather that kind of money just in case. But anyways,
we'll talk offline about that, because I know some stuff. But anyway, Louisville recap. We didn't do a show Saturday. You know, we had some obligations going on. It was a
messy game.
The Notre Dame fans are going to probably push back and say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Louisville's a better football team than Notre Dame.
I wouldn't go that far. They didn't show me they were. I mean, they outgained Notre Dame. They have a better offense than Notre Dame. Obviously, turnovers were the story of the game in the first half. There was every time you turned around, somebody was fumbling the football, throwing an interception, something. So turnovers were the name of the game. That's how Notre Dame won the game, right? Notre Dame didn't help themselves in the turnover battle early, but they ended up winning it. And that was the difference in the game. They had a nice little 24-14 lead at half, ended up winning 31-24, did what they had to do to get out of there with a win. I'm sick of beating a dead horse and continuing to say this, but the offense, it's not very good, and it struggles to sustain drives. It struggles to move the ball consistently. The O-line is bad. And I know it's beat up. I know it's depleted. I understand why it's bad. I'm watching it every week. I get it. Leonard threw a decent deep ball that was wide open for a touchdown. Outside of that, looked very bad at throwing the football. They're not a good offense. They're not. And until they either put an offensive line on the field that can move the line of scrimmage in the run game enough to just go full Michigan last year where you don't have to pass the ball, and protect Riley enough to give him the opportunities when he is passing the ball, it's going to be a struggle every single week. They're not getting better. The wide receivers are not getting more separation. Bo Collins is not that good. Ultimately, it's everything we've talked about all year and even in the offseason. I mean, Riley Leonard's a great athlete, not a good quarterback. He showed flashes at times, but he's super inconsistent, very inaccurate, can't put the ball where it needs to be 100% of the time. Ultimately, it is what it is. This team is what they are. Luckily, they don't have the toughest schedule in the world, so they should be able to get through it. USC is not as good as I thought they were going to be, so that is even a toss-up at this point. You're going to have two service academies that I think are better than I thought they were going to be, and actually might be formidable opponents. I still think Notre Dame's just pure talent overwhelms them at that point, and they still win. The defense has been a little underwhelming. I mean, they gave up 400 yards to a Louisville team that really couldn't run the ball that well. But the main thing is the defense showed up in key moments. I mean, at the end of the game, fourth down, they showed up. Xavier Worthy gets the interception. They showed up when they needed to. But the defensive back depth is becoming an issue. Benjamin Morrison went out for an injury for a little bit. That corner room is severely depleted with the transfer and just not having enough guys. It's going to be a very rocky rest of the season where you don't know what you're going to get every single week. And at the end of the day, the fourth down conversions are what saved the game for Notre Dame. Notre Dame was 2 of 3 on fourth down. Louisville was 1 of 5. That's what changed the game, as well as the turnovers. But Notre Dame was like 2 of 11 on third down. It was absolutely atrocious. So you can't win games that way consistently. It's not going to be a formula for success, especially when you start facing better opponents. If you somehow magically run the table and get into the playoffs, this team is not built for a playoff run.
my takeaways, there's other platforms out there that want to get out the fire hydrant, hook it up to the sunshine, and just blast it. And and Carter knows this because we talk offline. We had many conversations about these very issues that you're seeing play out in the season off camera in the springtime. And, we tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. The wide receiver room is not very good.
Mm-mm.
There's no reason your quarterback should have 3 more carries than your feature back.
No.
And more yards. And also, to put a caveat on how bad this is, he's tied for the same amount of touchdown passes as Alex Orji in Michigan. He had one game with 32 yards. And you have people running around here talking about, well, when we get in the I wouldn't want to take this team to a playoff.
No, not unless they get severely better on the offensive line specifically.
What happens if you run into one of the group of 5 teams like Tulane in the John Summeralls? Them guys are for real. They just blew the doors off a UAB. That game was over at halftime.
Yeah.
And UAB's offensive line looked pretty pedestrian, about the same as Notre Dame's. And Louisville had almost 40. They had a 40-kid turnover this offseason. So Louisville's Brom's not even hitting his stride there yet. And you mean to tell me you can only beat this team by 7 points? And I'm sick of hearing the people post about the Bo Collins this, Bo Collins that. None of these kids at Notre Dame could play at Ohio State. They couldn't play at Ohio State, couldn't play at Bama. I mean,
they don't have a single receiver on the roster that would see the field for most of the top tier programs in the country. And that's just a fact. I mean, I've watched Bo Collins closely because I think Bo Collins has the talent to be a really good wide receiver. I don't know what his problem is other than the fact that he is lazy. Like he doesn't wow you when you watch the all 22, when you watch the film. I don't know if it's development and coaching. I don't know what it is exactly, but he just doesn't do the things that excellent receivers do. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. was one of the best wide receivers in college football last year, and he got really not very great separation. The reason he was great is because of how athletic and how hard he tried and how good he was at contested catches and everything like that. He didn't separate himself from the defensive back all that well. And he was dealing with quarterback play that was better than what Bo Collins is dealing with, but not much better. But Bo Collins, he's going up against lesser opponents. He should be able to separate. He should be able to set defensive backs up and make moves and to run routes in a way that he gets the separation needed. And he just doesn't do that. And then Riley Leonard is not accurate enough to throw a ball into contested coverage in a way that Bo Collins can make a play on the ball. It's just a bad marriage between those two. You have a wide receiver who's not very good at what wide receivers are meant to do, which is create separation. And you have a quarterback who's not very good at getting the ball accurately to where it needs to be in contested situations. So that's just not going to work. And with the offensive line struggles, you can't rely on what your bread and butter is, and that is running the football. Like Jeremiah Love should be getting 20 carries a game, but you can't give him that because the offensive line can't block it. So you have to rely on setting the offensive line up with the extra person being the quarterback running the ball, which gives you a competitive advantage of a +1. And that's the only way you can move the football. And that's not a formula for success. It's a formula for success if you can do the other parts and you can run the quarterback effectively and efficiently. But if you have to run him more than 10 times a game in order to just win the game, that's a bad deal.
And, Carter, you've been not to call you out on this, but you've been more on the positive side of this.
Absolutely.
And I think now your opinion is starting to change to the fact of you're tired of seeing this each week.
Well, so and what I'll say about that before we continue is I was on the positive side of I see the talent, I see the potential given good coaching, and obviously injuries play a role on the offensive line specifically, but given the right situation, I see what these players could be. I'm sick of seeing it not produce because Riley Leonard has a good arm. If he ever figured out how to throw the ball accurately, if they ever got an offensive line that could move the line of scrimmage for these running backs, because the running backs are really good. They're really good. You just can't create the holes for them to be effective. And if Bo Collins ever turned into a player he should be, or if Chris Mitchell was actually a good player instead of a Florida International level player, and Jaden Greathouse, like you can go down the list. If these guys lived up to their potential, were put in the right situations, I saw the potential. And that's what I continued with. And I still see it. It's just the further we get, every week that goes by and you see it continue to underperform, you realize, actually, this is what they are. They have all the intangibles, but they can't put it together on the field.
And, I'm a big proponent of it. The philosopher, I believe Nick Saban said this, you are what your record says you are. Mm-hmm. And I think that is not indicative of this team. To the effect of, NIU, you beat Texas A&M, but Texas A&M had Wagman, and the Wagman's another deal like Riley Leonard. I think we were looking at two hurt quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Or two guys that were not 100%. And we'll dive back into this. It's just
if the rest of the season continues the way it's been going, we'll dive into this every week because I have been saying the same things for the past 5 weeks. Even after the Texas A&M game, I said Riley Leonard doesn't look like a great passer. I hope it gets better. Maybe Texas A&M's defensive line was that good and defense and everything. And it's just as we continue down this path, it's becoming more and more clear that he's just not good at that. And that is what it is.
And I don't necessarily put the woes of Riley Leonard on Denbrock because Denbrock doesn't coach the quarterbacks.
No, but I agree. I think Denbrock's a good coach, and I think he's throwing up the best offense he can given what he has. And I think he's learning more and more every week about. And again, not to make excuses, but the offensive line is the beginning and end of all these problems almost. Outside of Riley Leonard's inaccuracy, the offensive line. If the offensive line was healthy and up to par, the running game would be much improved, and that takes a lot of pressure off Riley Leonard to be better than he has to be, which is what they're doing right now. He has to be Superman back there. And that's asking a lot of a guy that doesn't have the traits to be that.
Yeah, I just when it comes down to this team, I'll give Joe Rudolph a pass because the offensive line has been dropping like flies on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Injuries play a huge role in that. I'm not discounting that.
And I think I just think it's too all your main offensive outside of Jeremiah Love, all your main offensive pieces. Bo Collins couldn't practice in the spring. Riley Leonard couldn't practice in the spring. So I was somewhere today and I had a Notre Dame shirt on, and I had a guy come up to me and say, "You think we should start Angeli?" And I told him, I said, I wouldn't be opposed to it to at least see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at this point you're not going to see it. I mean,
you're not going to see Angeli unless something catastrophic happens. And
I'm not 100% sure that would even solve the problems, because the only thing it might solve is I think Angeli's more accurate with his ball. But outside of that, you're still going to struggle to run the ball. You'll probably struggle more because you have less of a running threat at quarterback. So that's going to make it even more difficult for the offensive line to get a push and get these running backs in situations where they have creases and holes to hit. So it'll change the offense, but with the offensive line injuries, the wide receivers not being able to create separation, the tight ends, where have the tight ends been? I mean, it's just all across the board. I haven't seen anything that shows me that even with Angeli at quarterback, I think it changes your offense, and maybe that could be a little bit more effective in certain ways, but it doesn't change the fundamental issues of the offense, which are the offensive line and the skill positions, not running back, but wide receivers specifically.
I do know there's somebody out there that tagged us in a bunch of things on our show Twitter account.
Yeah.
Don't think I haven't forgot. And don't think that the numbers at the end of the year opposed to what the numbers are at some of the average wide receiver rooms. Don't think that that's not going to come around full circle, because in the spring shows, when I said we have issues here, I said my main 3 points is Riley Leonard healthy? Are the receivers any good? And the O-line depth. What are the 3 big issues?
There you go. You hit it all.
So I mean, I could have Carter go back and cut some of that old stuff up, and we can put it out there, because there's nobody out there that is going to tell us that we were behind on this. We were saying this in the spring. No one was listening, and anybody that did listen said we didn't know what we were talking about. Just 2 more BSers, huh? Well, that's why your quarterback, the starting quarterback at the University of Notre Dame, has more rushing yards than the fucking running back. So, with that being said, we're over an hour and a half. So, Carter, do you have anything to close it? Because I'm done.
No, absolutely not. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're on Twitter, hop over to the YouTube, subscribe, like it, everything like that. Jump in the chat so that we can interact with you. We don't see the comments on Twitter when we're live, so we can't. If you're commenting or anything, we can't see it. So just jump into the YouTube so that we can see your comments and interact and have fun. Other than that, we will be back either tomorrow or Friday, depending on schedules, and then we'll be live Saturday before the game.
And starting next Friday, we're going to have it's going to be called Group of 5 Friday, where the only thing we talk about is Group of 5 teams. So
absolutely.
Still working to hammer out the details on that. So with that being said, everybody please hit the like and subscribe, like Carter said. And we'll get some of the episodes up on Spotify soon. Yeah. And leave us a review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. So if you could do that, that'll help us grow our audio side of this as well as the YouTube side of it. So with that being said, everybody have a good night.